Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Ronnie Douglas, and in this episode we are discussing something that affects every single person on the planet, and that is fear. Okay, now specifically what we're going to talk about is how to overcome fear. So strap in, get your notepads ready, because you're about to learn it all right here, right now on Mindset Performance Institute. Guys, thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Ronnie Douglas, and this is Mindset Performance Institute. Okay, every person who has ever been born is faced with fear at some point. And when you're faced with fear, you will end up dealing with it in a certain way based on several factors, which we will get into. But first, I want to look at how fear is defined, okay? Now, before I get into this is going to get a little scientific, okay? So don't let your face melt off. Stick with me because it's going to make sense at the end, okay? All right, so what exactly is fear? How do you define it? Fear is an emotional response to perceived threats or danger, okay? It is a fundamental survival mechanism that triggers a range of physiological and behavioral changes, such as increased heart rate, heightened senses, and the fight or flight response, okay? Fear can be triggered by real or imagined threats and can vary in intensity from mild anxiety to intense terror, okay? It plays a crucial role in protecting individuals from harm by prompting them to take action to avoid or confront the threat. All right, that's a good thing, right? It's going to save your life when this happens. Now, that's also known as your fight or flight response, okay? We're going to get into that, and I'm going to explain a little bit about it. Now, before we get too far, what I'm going to do is break this up into parts, okay? In the first part, what we're going to do is discuss how your brain works mechanically speaking in regard to processing fear, automated responses, and how you can trick your brain into handling fear differently, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to hack your brain into dealing with fear in a manageable way so you can move forward and not be crippled by something that may or may not actually exist. All right. Now, in the second part, we will discuss contributing factors to fear, and in that part, we'll dive deeper into faith, personal belief, adopting principles, and taking action, which will give you the tools to not only deal with fear, but master it as well. Okay. There may even be a part 3, but we're going to see what happens. I'm going to try to get through this in 2 parts. Okay. So part 1, here we go. Now, modern science has made significant strides in understanding how our brains actually process fear. Now, I'm going to go over a few of these key findings that are relevant to our topic, and then I'm going to show you how they all tie together, okay? Now, 1, amygdala activation. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure in the brain, is central to processing fear, okay? It detects threats, it triggers the fight or flight response with the hypothalamus by releasing stress hormones, okay? Yes. This sounds like a lot of science, but stay with me. I promise your brain is not going to melt, okay? Here we go. The hypothalamus is the one responsible for activating the autonomic nervous system, specifically the sympathetic nervous system, leading to physical symptoms of panic, like increased heart rate, rapid breathing, and sweating, which I'm doing right now because it's 5,000 degrees outside, okay? Number 2, prefrontal cortex involvement. The prefrontal cortex helps regulate the fear response by assessing the threat and deciding whether it is real or imagined. Now take note, I just said real or imagined, okay? Yes, you can blow things up in your mind and turn it into a fear, and your brain is going to process it as real, okay? Now the prefrontal cortex can dampen the amygdala's response if the threat is not deemed serious. Wait, not deemed serious. So this is telling us that you can actually think logically and convince yourself well enough not to fear something that is illogical, right? That certainly is interesting, especially considering most of what we fear never actually happens, okay? Now, 3rd, let's talk about the hippocampus role, okay? The hippocampus is involved in forming and recalling memories. It provides context to the fear response, helping differentiate between a current threat and a past memory, okay? If the context is associated with previous fearful experience, it can intensify the panic response. So let's say you got shot in the past, or you got shot at several times like I have, and you just hear a gunshot, it instantly makes you feel something, right? Yes. But it's the hippocampus that will differentiate the memory from the current situation, and your prefrontal cortex will conclude that you're not currently being shot. It's just a fear response from a memory, okay? Now, this is also where your prefrontal cortex is going to pop in and remind you that you're not in a danger zone and no one is around to harm you, okay? Now, number 4, neurotransmitters, okay? Neurotransmitters like glutamate, GABA, and norepinephrine play roles in the fear response. The glutamate activates neural pathways related to fear, while GABA and norepinephrine can modulate the intensity of the fear response. So these chemicals can make something feel 100 times stronger than it really should, making you freak out and panic when it might not be a situation that calls for that sort of response at all. Okay? Now, so you may be wondering, if GABA and norepinephrine modulate the intensity of a fear response, can one reduce the intensity of that fear response in any way concerning those neurotransmitters? The answer is yes, okay? The intensity of a fear response can be modulated by influencing the activity of GABA, which is, let me see if I get this right, gamma aminobutyric acid. Yeah, got it. Okay, and norepinephrine, both of which play crucial roles in the brain's fear circuitry, okay? So one, how do we enhance GABA activity? One way is with medications like benzodiazepines, I think I said that correctly, which will enhance the effect of GABA and can reduce the anxiety and fear, okay? Now, these medications increase GABA's inhibitory effects, leading to a calming effect in the nervous system. However, this isn't about facing fear with drugs. So the natural way would be to utilize natural methods such as meditation, yoga, and deep breathing exercises, which can increase GABA levels naturally, promoting relaxation and reducing anxiety, okay? So also, modulating norepinephrine activity can also be done with medications like beta blockers, okay, such as propranolol, which can reduce the physical symptoms of anxiety by blocking the effects of norepinephrine, which can also help diminish the intensity of the fear response, okay? But once again, this is about natural methods, not drugs. So regular physical exercise and stress reduction techniques can help regulate norepinephrine levels, thereby reducing anxiety and fear, okay? Now, wait, so working out does more than make you stronger and look better naked? What? Yes, combining these approaches can help manage and reduce the intensity of fear responses by balancing the activity of the neurotransmitters, okay? So panic is never a good thing and will always make situations worse. When you're panicking, it actually makes it more difficult for your prefrontal cortex to do its job, which often leads to irrational thoughts or behavior while you're actually panicking, okay? You ever seen somebody panic and they do something absolutely stupid? That's why. It's because their prefrontal cortex is not working correctly. Okay, next we take note of neural circuits. All right, fear processing involves complex neural circuits that connect various brain regions. These circuits can be modified through experience, which is the basis for therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy for anxiety disorders like PTSD and stuff like that. Pause. Modified through experience. Let's touch on that. What does that mean? Neural circuits can be modified through a process called neuroplasticity, okay, which is the brain's ability to change and adapt. It allows individuals to learn from fear experiences and adjust their responses over time. Remember that. This occurs through experiences such as learning, practice, and exposure to new environments. Okay, for example, first is learning, right? Acquiring new skills or knowledge can strengthen the connections between neurons. Okay? Repeated practice of a task like playing a musical instrument, learning a language, whatever it may be, increases synaptic efficiency and leads to the growth of new synapses. Second, we practice. Okay, we practice. Engaging in activities that require repetition and focus, like sports, meditation, can enhance the efficiency and coordination of neural circuits involved in those activities. Okay. 3, and lastly, new environments. Okay, exposure to novel and stimulating environments can encourage the formation of new neural pathways, enhancing cognitive flexibility and adaptability. These experiences promote changes, okay, at the synaptic level, such as increased synaptic strength, growth of new dendritic spines, and even the generation of new neurons in certain brain regions. Okay, you still with me? You still with me? Because your brain hasn't melted yet from the science, right? Has it? Good. Okay, now stay with me. Guys, this means you can learn from fear and you can learn to deal with it better, okay? This happens when you act on fear and you face it, which is something we're going to discuss further in part 2, okay? So remember where we're at. Now, I want to mention genetics and environment, okay? So both genetics and environmental factors influence how individuals process fear, okay? Some people may have a heightened fear response due to genetic predispositions or early life experiences. Okay, obviously, if you have an early life experience, it's going to affect your development, especially since kids often have the ability to blow things up in their minds truly believing something was worse than it really was, or vice versa, not seeing the seriousness of a situation, okay? Now, with that being said, I'm going to give you one of my early life experiences, okay? I mentioned this on an Instagram live the other day, but what I'm talking about, was the first time I ever got shot at, okay? I was 10 years old. I got shot at while spending the night with a friend, and we had snuck out of his house, and we did this all the time. We would sneak out of the house, and we would go to this 7-Eleven, this gas station that was in the neighborhood, just outside the neighborhood, actually, and they had this video game called Tekken 2. It was an arcade game, and we loved this game. 2 10-year-old boys. We sneak out, we go to the 7-Eleven, and we, being bad kids, whatever. So this one night, I had this horrible feeling. I'm like, man, we can't do this. It's a horrible idea. We're going to get caught. We're going to get in trouble, whatever. And as soon as we get to this gas station, we're standing across the street from the 7-Eleven. There's nobody to be found, okay? There's nobody around. And there's this one car. This one car is a lowrider, so it's like 2 inches off the ground, whatever. And so we go up to the door. We're about to go inside, and this car pulls up. These 4 grown men get out. They start walking in, and they walked in front of us, right? This other car pulls in behind them, and this guy leans out the back window, starts flinging gang signs, and starts shooting, okay? These guys were standing right behind us, okay? Me and my boy Scotty were 10 years old. 4 grown men standing behind us. The guys in front of us are shooting at them. Okay, so all of us hit the deck. We're all on the floor, or the ground, rather. And I'm trying to crawl into this lowrider, but I can't even fit. I can't fit my head. It's 2 inches off the ground. So the guys in the car didn't have a direct line of shot because I was on the ground. Well, one of the guys was next to me. So these guys back up. They back their car up so they can get a clear shot. And they start firing again. And so there's bullets just whizzing by us and banging off the ground next to us, whatever. So we back up and we get in front of the car. They take off. These guys jump up. We jump up. Are you all right? Yeah. You good? Yeah. Okay, so everybody takes off. I was on a bike. Scotty was on rollerblades, right? So we get halfway back to his house, and he realizes he had dropped his wallet. Okay, so we had to turn around, go back, get the wallet, and then book it back to the house. Okay, so on the way back to the house, this kid is in tears. He's like, just an emotional wreck. We get back to the house. He cries himself to sleep. I slept like a baby. Okay, to this day, I can't, now I understand why, but then I didn't understand why. I didn't understand why I was processing fear like this. That's why I became so obsessed with learning all this stuff, okay? Now, what kind of 10-year-old boy gets shot at and sleeps like a baby that night? That doesn't make sense. My daughter is 9, okay? If she got shot at, she would lose her mind. And so would I, for that matter. But anyway, okay, so with all that being said, you should now be able to see how the process of fear works in your brain and have a kind of a decent understanding of it, okay? Now I want to turn to the how to fix the problem point, okay? So how do you hack your brain to not be crippled by fear? All right, how does that actually work? Overcoming fear is going to take a combination of things, guys, okay? It's going to take psychological strategies, lifestyle changes, and in some cases medical interventions, but honestly I believe it can be done minus the drugs. Obviously, I've done it without that. So guys, you have to have an understanding. You have to understand you're never going to completely eliminate fear, okay, ever, but you can absolutely reframe it in your mind, okay? And if you reframe it, it's more of an alert response rather than intense terror, okay? So this is something I had to deal with every day when I was in the Marine Corps. We learn to adapt and overcome, and you face fear and you learn from it, okay? It's a tool to use. When you see it as such, it begins to lose its intensity, okay? So fear is more of a tool and not, this looming monster that you have to be scared of, okay? Now, here's how you can manage and reduce the impact of fear, okay? 1, reframe negative thoughts, okay? This is one of the most powerful ways to overcome fear, guys, so listen to this, okay? Challenge and change irrational or exaggerated fear-inducing thoughts. The definition that you put on that fear is forcing you to have a certain belief, and that belief will force your response in one way or another, okay? Say, for example, I tell you water is blue, and you look at the ocean and you see it's blue, so you believe it's blue, right? But then you challenge that belief by learning that the water is actually clear and it only appears blue because of the way it reflects the sky and absorbs and scatters light wavelengths, which is actually true, by the way. So when you truly challenge something that you believe and you find an error in the logic, your brain can't help but take note and adapt, Okay, you can use logic to convince yourself it's not something that should terrorize you. Exposure therapy, guys, is another huge way to overcome fear. Okay, take a step towards it. Gradually and repeatedly exposing yourself to the source of your fear in a controlled way can help desensitize you to it. Okay, that's experience. Remember, it changes the neural circuits. We just talked about this. Now, another thing that actually works are relaxation techniques. Okay, this I know, some people out there are like, oh, meditation, no, it's not real. No, yes, it is. Okay, meditation helps you stay present and reduce the impact of fearful thoughts. Okay, deep breathing and progressive muscle relaxation can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting relaxation and reducing anxiety. This is a real thing. All right, in the Marine Corps, this was part of a morning routine that I didn't realize at the time was so impactful. It's almost like it brings you back to your center where nothing can touch you and you feel safer and more relaxed. Okay, so you got to try that. Now, physical exercise. Regular exercise can reduce stress hormones and increase the production of endorphins, improving overall mood and resilience against fear. Not to mention giving you more confidence, and confident people are less susceptible to crippling fear responses. Healthy lifestyle, including sleep. Believe it or not, adequate sleep is crucial for emotional regulation. You ever been extremely tired and you just start crying and shit? Or probably your wife or girlfriend maybe. But anyway, the point is sleep helps, man. It helps. It really, really does. Okay, so proper nutrition, a balanced diet can support brain health and reduce anxiety. Oh, okay, so again, this is coming up. Keeping yourself mentally and physically healthy can do more for you than you can ever imagine. We are talking about overcoming crippling fear, not running a marathon. But still, modern science is telling us this is a vital part of your overall success in life. You ever seen a ton of rich, successful people that are like fat, lazy, sloppy, and mentally unstable? No? Yeah, me neither. Okay. So anyway, next we have gradual desensitization. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Start small and begin with less intimidating aspects of your fear and gradually work your way up to more challenging situations. Sometimes it's easier to jump in the deep end, but some of you will actually benefit from wading in from the shallow end. Okay? Now, you must visualize success. Okay? Use visualization techniques to imagine successfully facing and overcoming your fears. If you can't see it, it will never manifest. This same thing, it's the same with wealth or any other major goal in life. Okay? Visualization matters. And do not forget positive reinforcement. Okay? Reward yourself for facing your fears and making progress, no matter how small. This will actually help you, and don't beat yourself up for being afraid. Reward yourself for taking a step towards conquering it. Okay, remember what I said. You're never going to get rid of fear. You just have to learn to deal with it and process it in a certain way. Okay? Now, combining these methods can help you build resilience, manage your fear responses, and ultimately reduce the impact of fear that your body feels. Okay? Guys, one thing about fear that is very certain is that you must make a choice. All right? You have to decide not to be afraid anymore. You have to be fed up with fear and make an actual decision to face it. Okay? In the beginning of this episode, I said fear can be real or imagined, and that is true. In fact, most of the fears we have are imagined. Most of the time, we walk around afraid of what could happen, not what's actually happening. Okay? You have to take note of how your body reacts to the idea of fear or the idea of something that scares you. Okay? Remember, there's a reciprocal effect between your body and your mind. The body follows the mind. And when it does, the mind will respond to the body as well. Okay? So it's a constant circle. All right? An example would be your posture. Okay? If you're feeling angry and someone makes you laugh, it's really hard to keep being angry, isn't it? Yeah. Like you have to get back into an angry state to do it, which feels weird. So that alone can have an effect. Okay? And it can have an effect on how you deal with fear and the definition that you place on it, okay? I think a lot of people miss the definition, okay? There's a definition. You place a definition on anything that you deal with in life, okay? You have belief systems, you have convictions, okay? I have other videos that go over these guys. You need to go back and touch on those if you haven't yet, because it will explain the way you create belief systems in your mind, okay? Now, belief systems will have a lot to do with the fear that you feel and how you deal with it, okay? Now, I don't want to get too deep into that because a lot of that will be covered in part 2. Part 2 is going to be huge, okay? So when we get to part 2, I want you guys to make sure you're taking notes. Now, I think this is a good spot to break and end part 1 on the overcoming fear. The next part is going to be out within 48 hours of this one. So look for it because part 2, like I said, is going to bring a lot of this together, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline a strategy for all of this as well, okay? So I'm going to see you then, okay? And bring your notepad and always remember your mindset is everything, okay? Guys, thank you for watching. My name is Ronnie Douglas, and this is Mindset Performance Institute. We'll see you next time.